Hola, bienvenidos a todos. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., double time. Anyway, Abelardo de la Peña Jr. with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to En Casa con La Plaza. It's a Friday night. We've had a very, almost a normal week. People are returning to work, getting back out in the streets, doing things, and including here at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Just this last Monday, we opened up on our normal schedule, 12 to 5. From Monday, we're closed Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, tomorrow is our first full weekend. We're open from 12 to 5, no reservations needed. We do, however, ask you to wear your masks. And you can get all our information at lapca.org. So we're happy that we're back in real time, almost normal, and we're happy that you're here with En Casa con La Plaza. If you're here joining us on Zoom, please use the chat feature. Let us know where you're viewing from. We're very curious to know who's chiming in today, who's zooming in. And then also, if you're on our Facebook page, we're also streaming on Facebook. Please do us a favor. Let us know where you're viewing from. Make comments, ask questions. We may take them during or probably afterwards. So use the Q&A feature as well on Zoom. Okay, a couple other things on La Plaza. We're returning to our programming, our public programming outside on our stage starting on July 17th. It's a Saturday where we'll have a screening of the documentary Carlos Almaraz, Playing with Fire, which is the documentary on the life of the Chicano icon, Chicano artist Carlos Almaraz, which is coinciding with our exhibition here at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, Carlos Almaraz, Evolution of Form, which shows a lot of his early work and some of his later work. So you'll enjoy it. You'll be able to enjoy both, plus some entertainment that evening and a panel discussion with the directors and with some artists who were compañeros, compañeras, with the great Carlos Almaraz. Then finally, let's see what else. If you cruise by La Plaza de Cultura y Artes any day or any night, you'll be able to see our beautiful neon art mural by Patrick Martinez called Only Light Can Do That, which is a 33 neon works on our windows facing Main Street. So cruise on by, stop, park the car, check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So with that, I'm going to introduce our host for the evening. I'm going to go away and be checking on our Facebook page, on our Zoom, see what's going on. But our guest is the journalist and musicologist, I could call him, el gran maestro Betto Arcos. Please join us, Betto.
Thank you so much for having me again, Abelardo. It's always a pleasure, and tonight is a very special evening as well.
All right, well, thank you. And what have you been up to, Betto? I know you published your book earlier this year.
Well, it's been it's almost like I've been writing a second book, because that book, Music Stories from the Cosmic Barrio, is now going to be published next week in Mexico, in Spanish.
Oh, congratulations.
So
that's fantastic.
I've been, since I guess the last time we spoke, I've been working on that particular project for the last 3 months. And it's just like I said, it's like writing another book. So, but it's great. I'm really excited about it. It's going to come out, like I said, next week. And it's also going to be available throughout Latin America and various, websites and so on. And I'm going to be going to Mexico to promote it, to do book presentations, some of them virtual, some of them live in person. Yeah, hard to believe, but yes, I am going to be doing some live, book presentations in Mexico, starting, July 11 is when I leave for Mexico, and I'm going to be doing a book presentation July 14. Then in Mexico City, then another one in my hometown, Jalapa, Veracruz, on July 18th, and then back to Mexico City to do another one on July 24th. So I'm, needless to say, I'm very excited, And of course, I'll be taking all the precautions that are necessary during this time.
Well, good for you. Congratulations, felicitaciones. Please drop in the chat where we could learn, where people could learn all this information, where you're going to be doing your presentations, about your book, about your work, and so on. We'd be happy to share. All right. So with that, ya me voy. Betto, take over.
Yeah, I want to welcome now a musician whose career I have known about and I've followed for a number of years. It's fair to say, I think Checo, Sergio Alonso, harpist extraordinaire, we met when I was working for singer Lila Downs, because I think she needed, a harpist, and I don't know if I did, but in any case, you ended up performing with her at some event, and that's how we sort of met. This is at least 15 years ago.
I'll tell you exactly when, Beto. I want to say that was for the Academy Awards year 2003. Fíjate, it's been that long.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's when that happened. Amazing. Time just flies. So at that time, you already had built a career as a harpist, because you came with really high recommendations from various musicians. As I said, I was working as Lila's co-manager, so I obviously need to find out a little more about you. And yeah, people, in fact, the harpist that may have recommended you could have been Celso Duarte, who played harp with Lila for a number of years, recorded many of her records. And of course, when he said, or when someone said Checo Alonso, I had to look you up. I had to dig a little bit and find out about you.
I think I had to look me up.
Well, yeah, this was, of course, back before you could Google and find all of this amazing information about you today. But briefly, Checo, give us a little bit of background on your career. I mean, you're an educator, you're a musician, you're a performer, and you play an instrument that perhaps people don't always see as one of the centers of a group, in this case, the Mariachi Ensemble. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But first, tell us a bit about you. You grew up in the San Fernando Valley?
Yes. So I'm a native. I'm a Southern Cali boy. I'm here from the Northeast San Fernando Valley, specifically Silmar, San Fernando, Bocoema. I grew up here in this area. And once I and basically I still live here. I'm still from the community. Went to school here in the Southland. Studied ethnomusicology at UCLA, where I first had the pleasure of meeting Nati, Cano, and Jesus Chuy Guzman from Mariachi Camperos. And of course, that was kind of my entryway into the Mexican folk and traditional arts, Música, Mexicana. At this point, my musical background was rooted in I guess in formal ensembles that you would typically find in schools, the whole band and orchestra type stuff. But being a trumpet player as a kid, it just seemed very natural to be at UCLA playing Música Mexicana.
I have to stop you right there. How do you transition from trumpet to harp?
Oh, it literally needs to be, because I was getting braces. I'm like, all right, I'm like 19 years old now. I think it's time I get braces now. What am I going to play? I can't be trumpet. Well, let me pick up the harp. And that's essentially how it was. Probably the mid 90s. After I had started playing trumpet, amateur groups and semi-pro groups here in the area, in the community of San Fernando, which has a rich history of youth mariachi ensembles. And also playing with the UCLA ensemble. I just said, hey, let's pick up the harp. I want to say Maestro Francisco Gonzalez from Boleta. He was selling one at the time. Like, hey, I collect instruments. I'll buy the harp just to have at home. I know I drove my mom crazy growing up because playing the trumpet. I wanted something a little bit more soothing, something more that I could relax and therapeutic. Playing the harp at home. I just got it basically just to play at the house, and lo and behold, I ended up learning the instrument, and you know, my shoulder hasn't been thanking me ever since carrying that thing around, you know, but it's been great. It's been great. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like never would I have imagined that my calling was going to be this instrument, especially at this point in time in the late 90s, late 90s, when the harp was still very scarce in mariachi.
You mentioned someone that's very important. We can't just pass him by. Francisco Gonzalez. Many folks who are watching this and listening may not know who he is. Francisco Gonzalez, in a sense, he is really one of the founding members of Los Lobos to begin with. I mean, and that's already a big thing to say. Yeah. But not only that, he's really a major figure in Chicano music and Mexican American music in Southern California. And he also was the founder and creator of a small mom and pop type of business called Guadalupe Custom Strings, which went on to become now a very sought after business that is now run by Jacob Hernandez. But when he started it, it was all about creating and making strings for instruments that you could not find at your average music store. And his job was so crucial, so important, that, you know, it was almost like his livelihood, his passion. It was like, you know, I have to do this because if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
So you were, in a sense, you know, he was your mentor.
well, back then, my cousin Francisco Gonzalez, who carries the same name from Grupo Tenoselome, he was first starting out his group, and he had said, "Hey, we're putting a jarocho group together. You know, you're barely picking up the harp. We're going to go visit Guadalupe Custom Strings in Goleta just to buy strings." But you know, buying strings, going to Goleta and buying strings wasn't just let's go pick up strings. It was just a whole experience sitting there and listening to Francisco talk and you know, experiences, you know, his experiences either with playing Los Lobos way back in the day, or you know, Teatro Campesino, et cetera, et cetera. So it was awesome. And then of course, as being a figure in the jarocho in the jarocho world, which essentially in Southern California, you know, there really isn't many. So him being a staple, going way back when, I was like, wow, it's good. This is absolutely someone I should know. So I'm glad I met him early on in my career.
That's so great. Now, Checo, let's get to the heart of the story here, the harp.
Oh, the harp.
The harp, you know, we're not going to go into detail about the history of the instrument, but we have to say some things about the instrument. It obviously it came from Europe initially, and during the period of colonization throughout the Americas, it landed, if you will, in different countries, and different countries took the instrument and adopted it. In some cases, one of them, you know, the country of Paraguay, where it's the national instrument of Paraguay. It's many who may not know where Paraguay is. It's a country that's landlocked. It's right in between Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia. It's in that kind of right in the middle of South America, and that I've been there a couple of times recently, so I can tell you a lot about the harp in Paraguay, but I'm not. It is the national instrument of Paraguay, but it's also played in Peru. It's also played in Venezuela. People know in the joropo tradition. It's played in Colombia as well, and in Mexico. It's played in different regions of Mexico. Perhaps the most famous style of music where the harp comes in is, you just said it, it's son jarocho. But not only. I mean, it's played in música calentana or música de Michoacán. It's played in Jalisco, and it's also played in Chiapas with steel strings in the mountains. So there's about 4 or 5 different types of harps in Mexico alone, actually. And I think Celso said this to me once. He says, you know, actually, in Latin America, Mexico has the most variety of types of harps. So the harp, as you have played it, tell us about that instrument and how it figures in the music that you play, specifically in the music of the mariachi.
The mariachi, yeah, you're absolutely right with everything you said, Beto. And the one I guess one tradition that kind of almost deviated from the natural process of a folk instrument like the harp was mariachi, because mariachi's history, mariachi's urbanization, popularization, it was such that it wasn't conducive for a diatonic instrument. As you know, the harp, it has to be tuned a certain way. It's big, it has to be tuned a certain way. So there were a lot of issues with this specific instrument. And like you said, it was traditional, and it is traditional to Western Mexico, like Jalisco, Michoacán, Colima, Nayarit. So it's still one of those instruments that emerged from mestizaje, whether it be mestizos or more native communities, etc. But once towns like Tecalitlan and southern Jalisco towns and groups started making their way to the big city, the harp slowly started to take on a secondary role. And really people definitely have argued that one of the reasons why maybe it was still present in popular groups was because it was always present in Mariachi Vargas at Tecalitlan, as we know, is the most important mariachi in the history of mariachi. And so with an instrument that it's hard to travel in, a mariachi that's so mobile. I mean, you can't carrying a harp, let's say in Mexico City urban centers in a bar or whatnot, or having to jump in a car and race to either musicians would grab onto other instruments, or harpists would play other music like música jarocha, tocar como solista, play música Mexicana, etc. So definitely over the span of so many years, the harp was one that was seen more like a luxury among high profile ensembles. In Mexico, of course, Mariachi Vargas was definitely the one that kept it there. Here in the States, Mariachi Los Camperos, the Nati, Cano, or Mariachi Sol de Mexico, they always retain the harp as part of their ensemble, keeping it visible for newer generations to see that the instrument was still part of the ensemble, even though a lot of times, maybe probably didn't know exactly what to do with it or how to integrate it into the arrangements. I will say this, Beto, that over the last, I've been in Mariachi Los Camperos since 1997, back when the mariachi conferences in the States, they didn't offer harp classes back when there really was harpists. I mean, you couldn't find a harp anywhere. You couldn't definitely go to your local store and find a harp. You literally have to travel far and away to get lessons in person, to study the instrument. And before there was YouTube, before there was Facebook, I mean, all you had was records and all that. So it was very, very different times. It brings me a lot of pleasure to see, I would say maybe in the last 10, 15 years, that there's been this resurgence. And then you see not only young musicians, let's say from Jalisco or urban centers, picking up the instrument, but a lot of them are happening here in the States, in the South, and then also already accomplished harpists that, let's say, play jarocho or venezolano or paraguayo. The impulse now for mariachi harp is such that they're like, well, wait a minute, there is work now in mariachi for the harp.
Yeah.
And that was unheard of before. And it's great. It's great. I think there's still not a lot, compared to the other instruments, but it's definitely come a long way. Now you jump on Facebook and see musicians, especially during the pandemic when people were doing all these, video projects and such, to see a lot of these amazing harpists. I'm like, wow. And I'm still with that, student mentality of learning something new every time and say, wow, look at all these guys are amazing. And it's a real different route that the urban mariachi harp has taken from the rural setting and making its way, almost disappearing, and then coming back. And I foresee the instrument really just pushing forward and maybe have stronger presence in the years to come.
Great. So why don't you pull up your instrument and
Yeah.
show us a little bit of maybe if you could demonstrate just briefly a few important aspects of this instrument. So, you know, anything that you think is important about the instrument and its role in Mexican music.
Okay, well, specifically, specifically the Jalisco harp has some characterizing features, some of which you may not be able to grasp as well right now. One of which is típicamente de arpa grande. It has a big box. The resonating box is pretty large, much larger than Venezolano, Paraguay, or Jarocho.
Now, this is the arpa grande. It's fair to say it's from one region of Mexico.
Well, the arpa grande typically it's associated with Michoacán, but Jalisco and Michoacán, the western, they've always been como géneros primos. They're very similar, and the harps are very similar also, with the big resonating box like this one, which you might see, where you'll have let's say the body's made perhaps of cedar or whatnot, but the soundboard is made of tacote, the same type of material you make vihuelas and guitarrones for the soundboard. Typically it's 36 strings. This one's a little bit more. This is 38. And it's diatonic. It's diatonic, as you can hear. You know, back in the day. I mean, you know, 1800s mariachis typically would focus on one or two keys, sol, do. So playing an instrument that didn't have all the notes wasn't such a big deal. That, of course, is one of the reasons we were talking about maybe why it disappeared. Nowadays, you'll see stylized versions of the harp where they use these levers where you can play the semitones, and a lot of amazing harpists now really use them to create all these beautiful modulation and chromatic harmonies. So that is one kind of, you know, modern adaptation, because even when I started Camperos, nobody really used it. I think I was the only oddball that was on a Paraguayan harp that used them. Now, of course,
invented by a Paraguayan, which I don't know if you know this, but he lives in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Was it Mariano?
Gonzalez.
Mariano Gonzalez, yeah, phenomenal harpist too, and yeah, he absolutely.
He's the one that came up with that brilliant idea of the levers.
With the levers, it makes total sense, and you hear him playing. It's like, oh yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So this harp actually was one that I had designed based on a Morales, again, Roberto Morales Instruments, the renowned luthier from Jalisco, and his whole family still really are the staple instruments and mariachis used. And modeled after that one, had this one built here in Oregon, actually, with some modifications, including a pickup, including the levers. This harp has been with me for almost 20 years. And again, but it's still rooted in the Jalisco style. That's one thing that Nati, Cano, que paz descanse, he definitely he always was a traditionalist, and he always wanted the look of a Jalisco harp. Nowadays, the Veracruz, you mentioned Veracruz. Veracruz is so important in Mexico that a great number of mariachi harpists use jarocho harpists in their ensemble. They sound great. It makes sense. You know, they're smaller, et cetera, et cetera. Yo creo que a mí me gusta la mala vida, because I carry around this big one, you know, everywhere, touring, you know, going everywhere carrying the big harp. So, but I just like the look of the arpa de mariachi, la arpa jalisciense.
Play something as traditional as possible that you can.
Okay. Well, we mentioned back in the day, música de arpa, 1800s, southern Jalisco, towns like Tecalitlan, Zapotiltic, where the harp was really rooted in as a bass instrument or harmony instrument, or sometimes you would play as a soloist. So you would play all these, you know, old sones, basically. And one of which, for example, and like songs like El Becerro, slow, just music. It's dance music. Sones like any sones. Jalisco, it's all rooted in música para fandango, música para fiesta, and will have really complex rhythm. A song like this, of course, uses the vihuela and contratiempo and the pulso, and it's a style of song that at least for the harp, that you probably definitely don't hear as much anymore played as a soloist. Of course, ya más otro tipo de son que tal vez es más popular, ya son más rápido, más con chispa, something like that.
Are there styles of playing the harp within, say, Jalisco and Michoacan? Are there different styles that, does it vary from region to region, from town to town? Are there different masters that are renowned as sort of the harpists of the region?
I think well, in terms of mariachi, generally speaking, not so much for the harp, but in mariachi there's either the mariachi contemporáneo, mariachi as we know it, and then el mariachi antiguo, el mariachi tradicional. And I still know of within those two spheres, still known of instrumentalists like the harp that play a lot of the traditional stuff, sometimes as a soloist or accompanied by, like, say, a vihuela. And then now again, but they're very few. But they're very few now. Again, that resurgence that we talked about, it's kind of like the harp is taking shape with a lot of influence from outside of what was traditionally Jalisco mariachi. Like, for example, taking shape with Veracruz. Ahora, un arpista de mariachi, a mariachi harpist, you pretty much need to know how to play jarocho, or at the very least some of the more popular jarocho pieces, because Música Veracruz has always been very important within mariachi canon. So now that there is this resurgence of harp, and you see it more, then you'll have like harp features where it's like, you're going to feature the harp playing, I don't know, La Bamba or Siki CD or Zapateado or something like that. So it's an interesting thing, because whereas the other instruments of mariachi kind of like develop based on like almost their internal criteria, influenced by music all the way around them, but the harp is one that is grabbing onto specific traditions, harp traditions that are from the outside. You would think that Michoacan, being that it does have a big harp influence, it's a big harp tradition, the Conjunto de Arpa Grande would have more of an influence on the urban style of harp playing. Pero no, viene siendo jarocho. Very fascinating, and I'm sure somebody, it's very fascinating on how it's happened that way. But again, when you consider the importance of jarocho music in mariachi, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. Yeah.
It shows an example of what you mean by that on the style of how how the jarocho harp has become part of the canon, part of the language of the mariachi sound.
Well, in terms of styles, you talked about differences. You notice that whether it's in Becerro or El Gavilancillo that I played, you use a lot of what we call pulso or brinco, where you're grabbing chords and you're shifting up and down and harmonizing as you go. And jarocho music, you also do that. Well, you also do a lot of intricate movement with finger independence. So, for example,
It's incredible the difference between the two.
Very different. And not only that, Betto, but as you know, I don't need to tell you, probably one of the most fascinating things for me, and again, now, especially now that I'm getting back into the world of scholarship, is how mariachis think about music and how connected it is to the style of music that they play. So for example, playing el becerro or playing el gavilancillo, siendo son mexicano, you think about it differently than playing siquisiri, whereas sones de Jalisco are very standardized and the sections are very, and you basically play the first section and the second section and you proceed and then you finish the song. Jarocho, you go. Tú le das. Yeah, oh yeah, you can keep on going. And
it's much more free. It's much more about improvisation.
Much more liberating. And interestingly, you know, music that is all about rooted in improv. Now, when it comes to playing it in mariachi, you have to recontextualize it and come with like a stock solo, so that all the other guys in the group know when it's time for them to come in. So again,
because you could easily mess them up, right?
Oh yeah. No, I remember when I first started with Camperos. Okay, and that's, you know, early on in my career, I did a lot more jarocho than I do now. So okay, the cascabel, okay, boom, we jump in there and playing the solo and we'll be la fonda y pues tocando and Chuy would be there. Okay, all right, when do we come in? When do we come in? It's like, ¿sabes qué, tío? ¿Sabes qué, tío? Come up with like a good 36 bar solo and just keep it like that. Oh yeah, it makes sense. But of course, you know, you lock it into the style, el sabor de jarocho. So anyways, again, it's just the way you think about playing. It's pretty fascinating. Yeah.
Play one more jarocho tune, and then I want you to play something from Michoacán.
Okay. Well, let's say I think this one needs no introduction, right?
Para bailar la bamba se necesita una poca de gracia y otra cosita y arriba, ahí arriba, y yo no soy marinero, por ti seré. La mujer que yo quiero si es mexicana porque baila la bamba veracruzana y arriba, ahí arriba, yo no soy marinero, por ti seré, por ti lo soy.
Yeah, La Bamba, you know, that's definitely one. We can thank everybody, including Richie Valens. Right?
So Michoacán is a world on its own. I mean, Michoacán, one thing that we have to mention here, Checo, is there's something special, very special about the harp in Michoacán in that they also use it as a percussion instrument. Unlike Veracruz, unlike Jalisco, they do what's called the arpa cacheteada, as in cachetear, which means to hit, you know, the cheeks, but basically not to make a reference to a different thing, but it is in a sense a percussion instrument. So someone plays the harp while someone taps the harp.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating. I have good friends that play it. You know, California, interestingly, I've been told by a number of people that the best Michoacan harpists don't live in Michoacan. They live in California. And there's this huge community in the northern part.
In the San Joaquin Valley. I remember a few years ago, I did an event at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, where I did sort of different sones de mi tierra, I think was the name of the event that I curated. and I had son Huasteco, son Jarocho, and son Michoacano, and I brought arpex.
Arpex, yeah, mi pollo, yeah, phenomenal.
So tell me about that.
So in the Michoacan style, again, I'd mentioned that it's very similar. It's very similar to Jalisco. In fact, many ways, the music is rooted in the same rhythms, in the same sesquiartera rhythms and redobles, and it's I think it's more, in many ways, it's more similar than different. But one of the big differences with respect to the harp is ese tambor que avientan, where you have one harpist playing the bass and harmonic accompaniment next to the vihuela playing rhythm, and the violins playing melody. And then you'll have the percussion instrument, when one of the instrumentalists will get down on one knee, usually on the bottom left, and you start going to town, and it's phenomenal, so fast, and it's amazing. So if you can imagine, someone tapping at the bottom of the harp, and a big arpa grande, I mean, it's a big resonating box, so the boom percussiveness out of that, and again, it really speaks to a lot of different regions in Mexico that have native and African influence, where you would use a lot of the percussiveness, and obvio, Veracruz is also one of those regions that uses a lot of that percussion, but a typical rhythm that you might hear, Jalisco, arpa de mariachi, digo, Michoacano was playing a son rhythm where tamborazo is being here. And I don't have anybody here to play tamborazo, but the typical son that we're talking about is, okay. And again, it just goes on playing
Wow.
those very para baile. Son is ultimately dance music. It's exciting, it's vigorous, it's energetic, and when you put zapateado on a tarima, oh man, watch out.
It's amazing that these harp styles that you've been playing are so different from each other, and yet, especially in the case of Michoacan and Jalisco, these are regions that are very close to each other.
Very close. I mean, you can literally be right across the way. I know. We've gone a few times to Tecalitlan, which is almost wind sprint distance from Michoacan, and that is really the ground zero of mariachi, historically speaking. That southern region of Jalisco, and even there, you'll see variants in even the way that it might be played from harpist to harpist, a different a variety of even the way the harp is made. In other words, you can have 10 harpists, 10 different harps, and they will all have significant differences, much more so than, let's say, guitarrones or guitars or violins that are almost standardized. Almost harp can be drastically different, and that's why people have asked me, well, how come, like, maybe you just, when you travel, let's say, to Guadalajara, you don't borrow a harp over there? I'm like, well, it would really depend on what harp I pick up, because depending on which one it is, it'll almost be like grabbing another instrument. It'll be that different. The tension, the space, si tiene palancas, if it has levers or doesn't have levers. So it has its complications. Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's one more style from Mexico that I'm hoping you could do an example of, and that's a style that a lot of times people, when they hear it, they think, oh, that's unusual. But I don't think it's unusual. It's the style of the harp where the musician accompanies a ranchera singer, a
Uh-huh.
singer of rancheras. Typically, is it not, guitar and harp?
Yeah.
Typically. Because
Yeah, yeah.
the bass, you carry the bass. I mean, you've been showing how you play the bass there. But typically, and I'm thinking of several different singers, but I've heard incredible renditions of rancheras sung by Cuco Sanchez, you know,
Mhm.
on guitar and a harpist.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and so on and so forth. But give us an example of what that is and how the harp provides this amazing harmony, this, you know, to the singer, and provides this bed that is not unlike a piano, you know,
Mm,
to a singer in a different style of music that
mhm,
could be jazz or it could be classical music.
mhm. Yeah, you know, the harp, a lot of recordings we listen to, you know, Dueto America and Antonio Aguilar and some of these old ranchera singers that would integrate the harp. I mean, you know, across artists, harp was still very scarce, but the few artists that use it, they use it in a way to establish what we know, el sentido campirano, just that intimate, almost like this campfire feel of voice and harp and guitar. Just an intimate rendition. Sometimes the mariachi may come in and adorn. Sometimes it would just stand alone as a small ensemble. But the feel, it really lends itself to ranchera, especially, you know, when that intimacy, you know, manifests in you know, the idea of love, gained love, lost love. I fell in love and then she left me, and I want to sing and drink tequila and all, you know, all these things, and it all revolves around this theme of love and romance typically, and then it's all these different varieties of it, right? So speaking of lost love, this is a classic one that any mariachi aficionado would definitely know. Let's see what we can come up with here. ¿Qué te ha dado esa mujer que te tiene tan engreído, querido amigo? Querido amigo, yo no sé lo que te ha dado. Cada que la veo venir, se agacha y se va del lado, querido amigo. Querido amigo, más valía mejor morir. Hace 4 o 5 días que no la miro, que no la miro, sentadita en su ventana. Si no la miraste hoy, ay, la mirarás mañana, querido amigo. Querido amigo, más valía mejor morir.
Oh my God, that's about as soulful as it gets, and I have to admit to you, Checo, and I may have said this before, but I certainly haven't told you this. My very favorite way of listening to rancheras is with harp and guitar.
Really? I didn't know that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it. I love a mariachi, and I love to hear the sound. And I've seen plenty of shows and performances with mariachis. But to me, the ranchera in its at its essence is just voice, harp, and guitar, and sometimes not even guitar, just the harp and the voice. That's all I need.
Well, when you think about ranchera in its rawest form, is about the lyric. It's about the word. It's about the story. So when you can kind of just scrape everything off and leave the essence, it's this perfect word to use, as an instrument as beautiful as the harp, and one that's really rooted in mariachi. And of course, mariachi being the vehicle that has historically carried the ranchera singer. You know, you put that together, and it's the formula of a bohemia. You know, and we get together with friends and colleagues, and we get here and bueno, vamos a tocar unas canciones, and even my wife would be like, you know, se cansan del mariachi. I'm like, well, this is different. This is just like for us. This is just here, and you see one. I know this old song, and a lot of times you may come across songs that either you haven't played in years or you've never played, but you can follow a singer, and you can play it together and make it sound as if you've played it forever and ever. But again, it's just ranchera. It takes on many different shapes, but it all follows that same formula, and it's just beautiful. You know, ranchera music. What would mariachi be without rancheras?
That's right. That's right. Well, if we have any questions from the audience, we can certainly entertain them now. But I do want to ask you, if you don't mind, playing something other than Mexican harp. Anything from Venezuela or from Paraguay that you may know?
Well, let's see.
To show, just because I want people to see the range and the beauty of this instrument as played in different parts of Latin America.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, it's funny you mentioned Celso Duarte earlier. I mean, I was a big fan of Duarte well before, you know, I was in Camperos, and probably before he was in with Lila. Celso Jr. I mean, Celso Senior, pues ni se diga. And I remember just being blown away about 1996 when I first went to go visit them, and just learning some techniques. Where Paraguay music is concerned, I guess my main emphasis is picking up some of the techniques that they use, and integrating them in different ways in mariachi music. And in all honesty, I haven't even explored, you know, Paraguay stuff in a while, but definitely the rhythm of the Paraguay is amazing. Just the rhythm that they play, it's like, you know, tapping your head and rubbing your belly. It's a really complicated thing.
Yeah.
Very, like you mentioned, similar to Mexico, but very different. So and then you have these techniques, you know. That Trino Paraguayo is unmistakably Paraguayan.
Let's be very clear here. In terms of the diversity of music in Paraguay versus Mexico, there is no comparison. Okay, Mexico has a much richer, wider, diverse musical culture. In Paraguay, and this is something, because like I said before, I can say this with you know, with believing it and telling you, because I've interviewed musicians in Paraguay who told me this: Betto, we really only have two musical genres, and that's it. Polka and rasguido doble, and that's it. The guarania, okay, the guarania is also a third. Let's just say they have three styles of music: guarania, polka, and rasguido doble. The polka is what you just played.
A polka, yeah.
Now, people should not be confused with polka as in polka from Germany.
Yeah, no, it's just the name. It's an entirely different
animal. But what you played is the style of music that people are familiar with when they listen to Paraguayan music. The polka, that they play in Paraguay is really, really special, really different. And
Oh,
that's-
it's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And Venezuela, you know, if there's a tradition outside of Mexico that has really influenced Mexican music and mariachi for sure has been Venezuela. Llanero harpist, I'm a huge fan of Música de Colombia y Venezuela. And there's now a whole canon of music, joropos mexicanos, that have been part of mariachi repertoire forever. But now that harpists are making the connections between these rhythms that mariachi's been playing and with the instrument, the harp, that is also, you know, has its pariente in Venezuela. And you'll play pieces like joropos,
Alba
like
Llanera or something.
like Alma Llanera. Probably one of the more popular ones is La Viquina. It's like, yeah,
But in
you got to know Viquina.
Venezuelan style.
It's rooted in the joropo rhythm of Venezuela and Colombia. And again, it's just that Pan-American cross-border influence that you see in Latin American music all the time.
Fantastic. We have some comments from some fans, some people that love your work. Our Checo, hombre talentoso, persona fina, intelligent, persona de pasión y sabiduría. Viva nuestro Checo del Valle de San Fernando. Thank you so much. Also from another, it looks like a fan, we in the Northeast San Fernando Valley are proud of Checo and what he continues to contribute to our youth in our community, and we should talk about that. He's asking a question. What was the influence of Andres Huesca, especially in interpreting the rancheras with the harp? Is it true Andres Huesca was hospitalized with tuberculosis in Silmar? Saludos from Betto Ruiz.
Oh, Beto Ruiz es una leyenda in Northeast San Fernando Valley. El Profe Beto Ruiz. I mean, if you're a mariachi musician, especially from this area, you know that he was a pioneer in this area. He started a lot of our, you know, he's been still an inspiration. And Beto, muchos saludos, un fuerte abrazo. Yeah, Andres Huesca was pivotal as an inspiration, just being in motion picture, bringing his jarocho background, but also transforming himself to play ranchero music, to play rancheras in motion picture. Him and his costeños were absolutely crucial in the development of mariachi, directly or indirectly, because los costeños, many people don't know this, was the ensemble that discovered Jose Alfredo Jimenez. So I would just imagine what mariachi would be without Jose Alfredo Jimenez. So interestingly, it was a jarocho ensemble that discovered, and they recorded the song Yo. Yo was the one that really just launched them. So yeah, I do believe that I've heard that this Andres Huesca, he fell ill here in the LA area. I don't know so much specifically, but I know his history brought him to the Southern California, for sure.
I'm gonna throw a couple of curveballs to you, just because we're closing, and these are sort of trivia questions for you, and maybe you know and maybe you don't know, but here's one.
Okay.
I've read a few years back in my research in music, as you know, I like to be a little bit well read when it comes to traditional music.
Absolutely.
I read that the trumpet was introduced to, since you're a trumpet player,
Yeah.
the trumpet was introduced to mariachi in the mid-1930s at a radio station called XEW. And it wasn't a musician. It was actually the founder of XEW, who then went on to become the founder of Mexican television. His name was Emilio Azcárraga Vidaurreta. And here's how the story that I read goes. Apparently, he was in the studio listening to a mariachi band that was playing with all strings. There was no trumpets. And he walked in and he said, something is missing here. We need to add a little more euphoric, loud sound to make this a little more exciting. In another studio, there was a jazz band that was playing. He said, why don't you bring a couple of those trumpet players in here and join this mariachi? And that's how the mariachi with trumpets, as we know it, was born. Is that a
Yeah.
story you've heard?
No, absolutely. And it makes total sense when you consider that it was the mainstream market that really steered mariachi. I mean, I think maybe, you know, we would like to romanticize it a little bit and say that it was, you know, mariachi is the mariachi es de los sones de cocula y el mariachi es de tecate, or something like that. But ultimately, it's just the power dynamics of necessity and of mainstream culture. When you consider that you had, you know, during this nationalistic period in Mexico, when you had all of these different groups coming from all over Mexico to the big city, trying to get on the radio, trying to establish this unified, you know, national sentiment. And the mariachi, of course, was the one that was spearheading that. So if I'm a mariachi musician and I'm trying to find work and it's there and I'm trying to get a foothold in the market, bring in a trumpet, bring in whatever we need to bring in. Let's just, if it means, you know, more excitement, or simply when you consider that maybe the microphones, you know, they didn't capture string instruments as well, like a trumpet. All of that definitely is consistent with that idea, and I'm sure it's true. I have no doubt.
Yeah. And the second and final comment, and again, you can answer however you want, is that Los Angeles really became the second mecca of mariachi from the very beginning of the explosion of the music for a number of reasons. One of them is immigration. There were a lot of musicians from Jalisco. In fact, I don't know if you've heard these two words said before. California, as in Jalisco in California, and Jalisco, Jalisco, because there was a lot of immigration of people from Jalisco during the early 1920s and 30s. So they brought the music here. And the second reason is, of course, because of the golden age of Mexican cinema. It exploded. It not only brought to the attention of a wider public, a wider population audience, not just here, but across the continent, around the world, Mexican music. Mexican music became the identity of Mexican people, especially through mariachi, but not only that. You already said it. One of the major figures of that age is none other than Andres Huesca, who is from Veracruz, who helped to also popularize the harp at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that transnational connection is always there. And I don't even want to use the word national, because when you consider that the borders political boundaries weren't really existent when you talked about, a culture's crossing. So when you see scholars like Jesus Jauregui that says there's documentation of Jalisco immigrants living throughout California, bringing their music, bringing their traditions well before the mariachi started to develop as we know it today. So that influence dates back well before the 1900s. Obviously, it made sense once you start having more movement during the 1900s. Once you start making a way through immigration and such, that the foundation, that the roots would already be established. So it almost seemed like it was going to be a natural transition. So California, especially Los Angeles, has been just as important in the transformation of mariachi than Mexico City, than Guadalajara. Absolutely, and many people will say it today, and I've known a number of people that have said, personally, or I've even read. I know Nati said it. I've read Jose Hernandez say it, that that some of the world's greatest mariachi musicians are in Los Angeles. Well, and I believe it. Yeah.
In this book that Abelardo mentioned earlier, there is a story. If you remember, I interviewed you for the story about Mariachi Herencia de Mexico.
Yes.
You're in the book.
Oh, hey, I got to pick that up fast. I was going to ask you about
that. Tell me about these things that you just said. And actually, Jose Hernandez said to me that quote a little bit different. He said something like, I believe the best mariachis are here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it would make a lot of sense, because a lot of them have been in the ranks of soul, or been in the ranks of los Camperos, but even musicians that have not been in those high profile groups Just, you know, the unspoken hero, the nameless, faceless chavo that is just amazing, that works within the circles of practitioners, the musicians, la comunidad. And that's definitely something, the stories that need to be told. I for one, I'm definitely leaning that way in my own doctoral work, you know, to tell the stories of the community mariachi, and the influence and the importance of the beliefs and values that derive from the community of musicians.
Terrific. I think what we want to do last before we go, Abelardo, if that's okay with you, if you could play one more tune, one more piece for us, an instrumental piece of your choice, whatever that is, something short.
Okay, we'll do a little short one. I know one, I don't know if my mom's watching, but she's always liked this one. And it's one that we you know, mariachis have different settings and different, which includes La Misa Panamericana, you know. And I know I played at school. For some reason, all the girls at, you know, at school say, "Oh, that's the quinceañera song." Well, it's not the quinceañera song, but you know, okay. That's a little bit of it.
Checo Alonso, arpista extraordinario, native of Los Angeles, of wonderful San Fernando, educator, teacher, researcher, and fantastic singer. I know I've heard you before sing with Los Camperos, but to hear you play the harp and sing was a special treat.
I figure if they don't let me sing over here, at least I can sing in my own house.
Thank you so much. Really.
Gracias, Betto. Un fuerte abrazo. Thank you so much. Abelardo, muchas gracias. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you so much, Checo and Betto. That was fabulous. I mean, there were some tears forming here just listening to the pieces. And the styles of the harp that you were playing, Michoacán, Veracruz, Jalisco, from where my parents came from, were just, it's a revelation. You know, we hear the harp sometimes in the foreground, mostly in the background when mariachis are playing, but bringing it to the foreground and giving us a little bit about the history and so on. I know a lot of our viewers on Facebook and Zoom really appreciate it. One question that we have from a good friend, Holly Lynn Purser, how does one tune a harp? Like on the top or the bottom? Obviously knows nothing about the harp.
There's a funny story that goes along with that. I say it all the time. It's a very harp thing to say. It's like, you know, harpists, we spend half of our time tuning up, and then we spend half of our time playing out of tune. You actually do it up here. We get this, we get the key, and yeah, one string at a time. There really isn't much of a science behind it. It's a long and tedious process to sit there and tune up from top. But that's one of the challenges of this thing.
Yeah.
Oh no,
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I'm just going to read out some of the people that joined us on Facebook, where they're from. We always ask where they're viewing from. Gary Rodriguez from Shafter and Califas. We have Hilda Cardial Ambris from Ontario, California. We have Guadalupe Diaz Isa. Welcome, Guadalupe, from Highland Park. Mercy Bautista Olvera, a regular viewer on En Casa con la Plaza from West Covina. Pablo Becerra from Los Angeles. We have Pablo Gonzalez Rubio Sainz. Saludos, Maestro Checo. And
Pablito.
yeah, Pablo Gonzalez and Michelle Coates from Placentia. And then we have Roberta H. Martinez, who describes the harp. It's opera in the living room or on the patio.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Very kind.
Maria C. Carrillo, I can't play the guitar harp, but the harp is an amazing instrument. And she also states that the best mariachi youth is in San Fernando. Would you agree with that?
Well, we do our best. We try hard.
All right, Mariachi Master Apprentice Program, Mariachi Tesoro y Los Ángeles. Es un privilegio tenerlo en nuestra comunidad de San Fernando, más aún que sea uno de nuestros más queridos maestros en el MMAP. Bendiciones.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. MMAP. Well, in fact, we're going to be at, I believe we're going to be at La Plaza September 12th with Tesoro. It's going to be our very first performance in, oh gosh, since the beginning of the pandemic. They're going to be there playing. We're really looking forward to that one.
Fabulous. I know a couple of years ago, and you were here, Betto, when we had Linda Roston as our honoree. Los Tesoros were our mariachi group that was there, that played along with Linda Ronstadt, with other mariachi, Los Lobos, Angela Aguilar. It was a beautiful, beautiful event.
Oh, it was a great event.
We look forward to having you back again. And then Carlos Daniel from Silmar and Guadalupe Díaz Isa, saludos y gracias por compartir su conocimiento del instrumento, talento y alegría. Estoy muy agradecida, es instrumento muy bello.
Oh, gracias, thank you.
And I think that's something that Betto, thank you so much, Betto, for bringing Checo to En Casa con la Plaza. You brought so many different musicians to our virtual platform over this past year and a few months. And if you want to catch this, other Betto Arcos hosted En Casa con la Plaza, just go to our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. We record this one. It will also live on at La Plaza LA, also on our Facebook page, also on our website at lapca.org. And I really can't wait to see who you bring on the next Betto, because it's been a maravilla.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun to talk to people I admire and I respect, and Checo has been always very top to me. So thank you.
I just wish we had more time, because I'd like to interview Betto and just all of these amazing stories that he must have. I mean, next time I think we need to switch roles here.
But we'll do that, and usually, like Betto was saying, I think we're a little about 7:50 if we have enough time. Betto, you always go over time, but that's okay. Anytime. All right. So let's talk about what's coming up with En Casa con la Plaza. Next week, we have on Mondays, we have our cooking demonstration. We have Wendy Centeno from Guayaba Kitchen in the San Fernando Valley doing plant-based summer eats. So she's a plant-based vegan chef. So she'll be on Monday, June 28th at 3 p.m. On Wednesday, June 30th, we have Bridge Building with Joy, Playfulness, and Power with Camila Cameleon, the president of the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center. This was, of course, LGBTQIA+ month. And so, of course, La Plaza celebrates that and honors that. So we'll have her along with Javier Mejia, the executive director of Q Talk Radio. And then next Friday, we have Dan Guerrero Happy Hour, as we do every other Friday. We still don't know who he's bringing on, but we know that it's going to be a good one.
Great.
As he's had some fabulous guests in the past few weeks, months, and I'm sure he'll have it again. So it'll be a surprise to all of us, but please tune in. And also, please check out our website, lapca.org, and find out all that's going on here at En Casa con la Plaza, on En Familia con la Plaza, which is our family workshops every Saturday at 10:30. We stream them on YouTube, and then we'll post them on our Facebook page. But also, as I said, live programming is coming back to La Plaza de Cultura y Artes starting on July 17th. And we'll have Summer of Salsa returns with 3 concerts. We'll have some more Selena. We'll have our Selena Fest and a few other surprises. Our family days are coming back. And it's all because this is our 10th anniversary here at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. 10 years since 2011, we've been here celebrating our culture, our history, and our art, and as we did today. So tonight. So thank you so much, Betto. Thank you so much, Checo. And
Thank you.
all those out there, thank you so much for joining in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Gracias.